Kathy Vick, Deeply Awake Chats 2017. I'm coming because, it's been 6 days since my last post. I've been recording since that time, but I haven't released those publicly, and I scratch my head at that because it's really good info. Really good. But for some reason, it's just not time. And I think that it's for that reason and many others that I'm coming, because it's time to do a little bit of an energy update. I woke up this morning, it's Friday, and I swear when I woke up, a part of me knew it was Friday, but it's like the bigger part of me goes, oh no, no. Maybe there's been one day between Monday and now, but not a week. How is this possible? And what came to me was how very important trusting oneself becomes in this kind of energy. And I learned this to a pretty thorough extent earlier. And it was usually in relation to work, because I didn't want to ruminate after my shift was done. And so I had to train myself to trust that I'm being, and to be then mindful, on target, on purpose, in the moment, and then when it's over, it's over. And so that's kind of how I approach work. Funny, I think that's spreading, because it doesn't seem possible that it's now Friday. And there's a piece of me way in the back who's been giggled at and poked fun at a few times, and the concern is, oh well, maybe this is dementia. No, everybody, hang on to your hats. If you're having these issues, please don't diagnose yourself with this dementia stuff. Is dementia real? Of course. It's a biological, event that occurs in a person. And it's purposeful and beautiful and all that. But this is not that. This is time has done something here. And so let's talk about that. The nuggets I got this morning is, there are certain things that are really good to have as rules, because part of time speeding up is that you gotta have things be a no-brainer. Oh, when I'm presented with this, I always do this. Oh, when I'm presented with this, I always do this. And it becomes a little bit automatic. Some of these can be quite high level. They can even involve conflict and confrontation. But if you always behave from your center, especially when the chips are down, then, as time speeds up, because in the moment, believe me, it feels like it's going to go on forever. That's the tricky part about this, is I'm living my life on Tuesday and Wednesday and Thursday. It's not like I'm going, I'm not even paying attention. No. I'm living it deeply, viscerally, emotionally, soulically. I'm living it in a full way. It's just that I look back, in this string of days is a blur. Wow. So, trusting myself is an important part of all of this. And just generally liking myself and my standard responses is helpful. It leads to a sense of peace as time speeds up. So that's a little magician aside for you. I know I'm not. I was at the waxing place, and we talked about how time is sped up to the point where it just is like a blur. All right, so let's discuss it. Boom, there you go. Now, the other things that I'm aware of is this Pluto in retrograde is a big deal. Here's the deal. This is what I've noticed about the last, ever since the eclipse. Pretty much ever since those eclipses It's been fascinating to me how I feel like I've been put in this position by others and by my soul. And I see it with others. People are having decision points. They're having moments where they have to declare. I just really pray that when people come to their decision points, they're really coming from a place of alignment and authenticity. Because what's happening now with this retrograde and with this season, up until I'm getting until September, although I can feel an easing in July, but there's pressure and there's work involved, and really it just basically has to do with coming face to face with the consequences of you doubling down. I think that's fair, don't you? Crayons talked about it. In this energy, if you choose to stay in the old patterns and the old energy, the old life, the old everything, keeping things, good luck with that, like they were. And this is based in some of the lower agreement field agreements. Then it's going to get mighty uncomfortable. And he talked about, I only heard this once, but he talked about how there's this shell that's thick, and it turns into a mirror that points inward. And this is new. And so it's just an amplification, a further amplification of looking at yourself. Well, that's fair. Isn't that what it's all about? And I think that this retrograde period, this season, is what that's about. Because, wow, walking into the 420, have I seen people double down. Wow. Really? You're going to play it like that? Really? Well, alrighty then. More power to you. See ya. I've had to do that with some really profound ties. It's just, alright, well, pardon other ways, I guess. But it's clear that this person or these people are convicted. They have their truth. I have mine. They're not compatible. What's to be done? You say your peace and authenticity and love and move on is what's done. I'm a veteran, dude. And I can see now how, depending on how much of this deep stuff you've done, the next few months are either going to be pleasant or pretty uncomfortable. Now, one thing that I've heard and I want to pass on about the next, little period, I think that I stand as an example. I'm very sensitive to when the energy is not appropriate for speaking. And the information that I got in many of the recordings that I have not passed on to you guys is that this is a time of definitive action. And where words and deeds stick, you can actually create and destroy worlds with the words that come out of your mouth during a phone conversation, on a text. Now, it doesn't mean that we're walking around in a landmine area. Not that. It does mean that it's appropriate to be mindful, to give the gift of silence, to not walk around needing to educate and mansplain, and to just let things be. I know these times, and last night was a really cute recording because I could see on my face this recognition and joy of, I remember these times. I've been here before, where everything's heightened, where things really matter, and it just is a more charged time, and it's really wise to be mindful It is really wise to realize your power and to not speak unless you want those words to go to the bank. And if you do, well then, speak. But it's not the time to say, oh, well, you pissed me off, and here's why, and I think you're a creep, and here's why, and blah, 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 blah. No. I have read up a little bit on the retrograde season and stuff, and it's plain that, some of this stuff is in line. So I urge people, because it just is such a strong, like, innate reality for me, how to work with this energy, because it is intense. I describe it as it's a kind of energy that you look at it and it's a white screen, okay? You know it's bursting with something. It's bursting. It's like crackling. It's the sort of energy where you just have to think about reaching out and touching it. It begins. So it's highly potent. And it's important to know how reality is constructed, to be in agreement with that, and to be coming from your core. And I say you, I mean, I could just as well be talking to myself. Obviously, in a way, I am. So it's, but I'm telling you the things that I actually do. And it's basically out of a very profound, innate obedience to the energy. I don't know how else to describe it. Sometimes energy is popping and it's electric and fizzy, and it will accept any behavior. It'll just say, okay, come on, give me some more. And you can just do whatever you want. And things are in a little more harmless or profound setting somehow. This is different. This seems like it's a game time of sorts. But for self, it's really time to be, I can speak for myself, it's really time to be very mindful and reverent and loving towards self, and keep the focus there. So those are my little doodads for you. Nothing too intense, but thank goodness for that. We have had our share of dark nights of the soul and emotion. I think also that would be very helpful to say it to. And I think that what I'm seeing, especially like this last week, is a perfect showcase with time speeding up so fast. What stops time? Strong emotion. And so I think that it can be used sometimes just, innately, neurologically, as a way to track time, stop motion, strong emotion. So, and this is a time of strong emotion. And so this speaks to the memory maybe being available in a little bit different way. I know that many people catalog their life experiences and even their solic growth based on year, based on linear stuff. And hats off. If I knew what month some of these things happen, I'd be in better shape. I remember key dates, but that's it. I remember things emotionally. And now I can see partly why that's the case, because when things are happening really fast, when the speed has increased, that's the way you latch on to things. Time begins to mean nothing, but emotion and situational, relational, or really, really deep interpersonal turning to a self, these things are what are remembered. And this is what stops time and gives you a breather. Whether you're sitting there, grieving and weeping, or whether you're laughing out loud. The feeling has changed, the tone has changed enough that I do think it's quite possible. I'm proof of that. That a lot of these things can come through gentleness now, through a palette that we've probably been looking forward to but have not been having very much access to. So before, if the palette is all about anxiety and fear and troubles and goal completion and obstacles and challenges and I'm not quite right and I need to work on myself some more and things like that, well, that's one way of doing it. And the other is just to kind of bob along the top of it all, and it doesn't mean that you're not affected. And this is that split, the split and the merge, because it's very nice to have a higher perspective. But what I'm realizing is that, I may or may not be the only one in the room with that perspective, and people are going to be doing their thing at their level of understanding based on their karmic needs, and that's that. And a lot of the stuff that I've had to get rid of, like being defensive, and oh my God, I have been a handful. But there are some mechanisms that just really aren't getting triggered, and when they do get triggered, it's just so stupid. It's like, really? I'll go, yeah, this is how I used to act all the time. This is how I used to behave when confronted with this problem each and every time. And now I do the same behavior, and it's so uncomfortable and so ineffective. Yeah, I think I'll not do that anymore and just keep doing what I'm doing, which is to have a different attitude. To imagine myself safe and loved and protected, and to disconnect from the life and death quality of so much of modern life. So I wake up happy because I know that this is real, that ascension is real, and we're right in the middle of it. Sure, it might be the first couple of steps, la la la. Doesn't matter. It has to start somewhere. And I know that it started. And I am actually getting to the place where I really can accept that for me it happened. It started in a physical way in May of 2012. That was actually my hit of light. And I've been sort of explaining it to myself ever since. And it's taken me a long time to figure that out. It means I have to own this. It already happened. It's just my brain that is, I don't know, finally, maybe catching up to what happened. So, and it's not just one event, but there are some benchmark moments. I'm so grateful for my sparklies, though. My meditations and visions and hits of light. If I didn't have those, then I could be very proud of my work as a transpersonal psychosocial observer or whatever, and that's valid. But it's not just that. Ooh. And all of these things were portended 20 years previously. Ooh. Yeah, it's a pretty good story, ain't it? And I'm very glad to see the ease in my face. And so it's been 6 days now. I don't hear my critic. It's like that area is completely silent in my brain pan. And it just it was like this pressure, this oppressive pressure, this drumbeat was always there. Always demanding satisfaction and sacrifices. And it's just gone. And I have people in my life who, when they know about my darkness, my challenges, they kind of, hey, you don't have to, you don't have to go quite that dark. You know that, right? Yeah, I know. It's not me. It's my fellow travelers. They're doing some adjustments. It's been really great. And it's been great to watch people walk through their decision points. It's not up to me what they decide. It does impact me what they decide if I'm involved with them, just as it impacts others when I finally decide, when I have my moments of decision making. And that's why this admonition of, hey, during this time, you're going to see people respond to you in ways that maybe aren't very comfortable. And as long as you're doing things from your core, then you're going to be fine. But people aren't going to be entirely happy with some of the stuff that comes out of your mouth or that you choose to do. Well, okay, if this is a time people walking around butt sore, well, what else is new? But in this energy, it's just so intensified. And holding an opinion that is different than someone else can feel like a lethal insult or the final blow or whatever. So let it be. Just let it be. Each of us have help. Each of us dream at night. Each of us have random thoughts that go on in our brain that we can't really explain, but that have saved us from time to time. Each of us. We each have help. We are each protected by our teams. What's happening here is the most benevolent thing for each of our souls. And trusting during this time is probably not, it's probably a good idea. I'm working actively on limiting my swearing, and I don't want to express myself in terms of no anymore. So I prefer to express myself in terms that are positive. So instead of saying, that's not unpleasant, what am I saying there? It tells me that my frame of reference is unpleasantness. And I find myself, I hear the words that come out of my mouth and realize I use a lot of negatives to express a positive. That needs to stop. That's ambivalent and confusing and indirect. And it's just a habit, an unthinking habit. It's fun to do some of this. Like when I gave up idle complaining for Lent, I don't know, a few years ago. Whew. And these are things that you can do or not do. They're little games you can play with yourself. Is that okay? Will the man be okay with that if you use some of your time at work thinking on these things? Well, let's hope so. And if he isn't, maybe he needs an adjustment, an attitude adjustment. These things are important. Yeah. It's not all about productivity and numbers and mo. So, all right, that's a longer thing, and I'm glad it feels in this house, in my reality, very soft, very safe. That edge of fear, of impending calamity, is gone, and it feels really good to have that lifted. Sometimes that's what happens when the very worst occurs. You can kind of just walk around and say, yeah, well, the worst is over. Ain't that nice? Ain't life grand? And so I guess to close, I'll tell you that I did several recordings at Easter. I talked very deeply, as I did last night, about the crucifixion resurrection metaphor. and likened it to when in your life you've been avoiding it what feels like forever. And then one fine day here in 2017, you can see, oh my Lord, here I am in this little pod of a car, and the wall that I've been trying to avoid for a lifetime, I don't want to hit it. Here it is, oh my Lord, and it's coming right at me, and it's really super fast. You hit the brakes, there are no brakes. Oh Lord, you want to look at the steering wheel and put your hands on the steering wheel, but your hands kind of bounce off of the steering wheel. You can't grab it. And you realize this is the real deal. This is really going to happen. This is the end. What comes next is obliteration, conflagration. I'll be broken up into tiny pieces. I'll be reduced to ash. This is the end. This is the end. Well, some of us know they can feel that wall, and it leads to a sense of great discomfort and unrest until the moment occurs, that decision point. And others, it's just right on them. It doesn't matter. I think a lot of us are hitting walls or are about to hit walls, thanks to Pluto and many celestial triggers. But I want to leave you with the punchline. Are you ready? Well, of course, being a soft machine, being a tissue-based life form, when you know that you are hurtling towards something that is, physically obliterating, you're going to have some thoughts. And this is a metaphor. Oh my goodness, aren't there moments when you're meeting face to face with your destiny, with a probable future, with your best form of human self? Crosses in the road, forks in the road. Something dies. And it's that feeling of going toward it and prickly, urgency of, I'm about to die. Oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. Ha! You hit that wall, guess what? Here's the punchline. There's joy. Hook into it. Realize with abandon, here it is, it's finally here. And the funny thing is that as you hit that wall, the wall knows what to do. It's not you who dissolves and the wall stands. At these times, the wall complies. The wall bows and parts. The wall dissolves. The wall is destroyed. It is not what it appears. And you go on. You always go on. And there is great joy and celebration in that. Relief. And for me, it sparks a sense of reverence and of thankfulness for the process and for Creator and for myself. So I do think this is a great time to be in great appreciation for self and for everything that you've gone through to get where you are. It's not appropriate to make fun of where you've been or to take the side of the critic when you look at your life. It's really about time to own it, because I think as Pluto goes retrograde and we start getting hit with this, we're going to have some revelations. We're going to see, yeah, I did. I really did. this was how I used to be. This is how I am right now, and I don't like it. Now it has to change. That's a hard and humbling thing to do for some people. Saying I'm sorry, saying I was wrong, saying I see how I could have done this differently and better. I see how I hurt you. I see how I helped you. I see how I hurt and helped myself. It's only a dark night of your soul if you don't like what you see. When you're confronting the stuff that's dark. It's not all dark. But, if you're doubling down into madness, well, it's a really nice thing that your soul does, is just kind of exposing the madness. You sure about this? Because it seems like, these decision points, everything's on the line. It'll always be this way because of what I say in this moment. Not really. It's more of just a simple gauge of, okay, where are you at? How much work we got to do? All right, let's begin. So, we're covered. All right, it's time for me to go do things. I have a happy day scheduled, and a great weekend. Lots of work. It doesn't stop anymore. I used to have long periods of inactivity, of contemplation, solitude, and that's changed. And I really liked that time, and I really like this time. So I'm really glad for the change, but I admit that it is a change, and the pace has increased enough that it does impact the neurologic system. Vis-a-vis, you wake up on Friday and go, oh, it must be, what am I doing this Tuesday? No, it's not Tuesday, dear, it's Friday. You lived your week already. So that's why it's kind of, if you're living in integrity moment to moment, then you can take it to the bank you had a good week. Otherwise, yeah. And whether time slows, the more arguments you have with your own behavior, your reality, I don't know. But I do know emotion slows things, stops things, lets you have a breather. I pray that anybody watching, that the emotions that stop you cold and give you a little timeout are the emotions of joy, self-appreciation, heart-stopping awe for the person who's sitting next to you or looking at you. Those are neat things. That's a nice way to stop time. And I pray that each get more and more of the happy, because that's the way of it. Yes, 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 we have much to heal. Oh my, obviously. But I see that stuff, that dark stuff, as more the stitching on a garment of white. And there's this black stitching that's very crude, and the seams don't look really nice or not even. It's just sort of done, okay? And I think what's happening is that there's a new kind of thread that's really sturdy and beautiful and invisible. It's transparent. So the garment is going to look completely different. It's going to hang better. It's going to fit better. It's going to look better. It's going to feel better. The punchline is that these new seams, this new finishing work with the beautiful transparent thread you can't even see, but somehow magically the garment just holds together beautifully, better than ever before, with new features, new pockets and new doodads, maybe a hood. This is about ripping out the black, old, crude seams. It's not about stitching with transparent thread, doing the impossible. The impossible has been done magically overnight. Once you realize that, ripping up the threads, the old threads. Well, that can be done as an act of joy. Celebration. It's not a destruction. Well, sure, it's a destruction. Oh, here's a little thread, it broke. Oh. No, it's an old thread. The whole thing is being held together in a much better way now. And we're ripping out seams that limit us and limit movement in our garment, in our mental. All right, so I got a split. I got lots to do. Lot many people to make happy. Me included. Ha! So, I don't know if I'll see you this weekend or not. I never know when I'm going to come again. I try. I sit in front of this thing and go blah blah. You don't see me. So, when you see me, it's got the seal of approval, and this one I'm cool with. It's light enough. Whew! It's been intense around here. It's lighting up now. I hope yours is too. Thanks for following along. I really hope that you're happy. Namaste.